Today's video is jam-packed with pasta. Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm sharing 8 delicious pasta dishes. There's one-pot meals, casseroles, and even a sheet pan dinner. Now let's go ahead and get started. You're gonna love this one-pot chicken Parmesan pasta. In a large skillet over medium heat, I've added a little over a pound of boneless, skinless chicken that I cut into bite-sized pieces, along with 2 tablespoons of oil, 1 small diced onion, 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. Add some salt and pepper to taste, 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and also I added half a teaspoon of onion powder. Now stir that and let it cook until that chicken is most of the way cooked through. Just toss it around every couple minutes, and it should only take about 7 or 8 minutes to cook. And when that chicken is almost completely cooked through, you can go ahead and add in a 24-ounce jar of spaghetti sauce, along with 3 cups of chicken broth. And I like to pour a little of that broth in the jar and shake it up real good, just to make sure I get all that sauce out. Now I'm going to add in 16 ounces of penne pasta, but you could also use rotini, ziti, maybe rigatoni, or you could even use shells for this. Stir it up, and then you'll want to cover this and let it simmer for about 15 minutes until that pasta is cooked through. And I did stir mine every few minutes just to make sure nothing stuck to the bottom. Those noodles are done, so now I'm adding in 4 ounces of softened cream cheese. I should have cut mine into smaller pieces there so it would melt faster, but I don't know what I was thinking. I've got 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese, but I'm only adding in half, and I'm going to save that other half to top the pasta when it's done. I covered this and let it continue to cook on low until that cheese was completely melted. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I would love it if you would give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. That cheese is all melted, so now I'm topping it with a half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese and that other cup of shredded mozzarella. This really is an easy dinner that would be perfect for any night of the week. I sprinkled on a little parsley, then I covered it until that cheese was all melty, and then this is ready to serve. This is one of my family's favorite quick and easy dinners. This is also kid-friendly. My daughter loves it, which is always a plus. It is so good, and I really think you're gonna love it. Okay, this is a family favorite right here. It's a sheet pan spaghetti pizza. On the stovetop, I boiled up 16 ounces of angel hair pasta according to the directions on the back of the box. When those are done, you're going to drain them and then set them to the side. Now over to the counter, in a large bowl, I'm adding in 2 eggs. Now give that a whisk. Next, you're going to add in 2/3 cup of milk. I'm just using 2%. And for the seasonings, I'm adding in half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and a little salt and pepper to taste. I gave that another whisk. Now you're going to add in the cooked and drained spaghetti pasta, 1 cup of mozzarella cheese, and half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. Now carefully stir that until it's all well combined. And make sure you use a big enough bowl here. I'm making this on a sheet pan, and I cannot wait for y'all to see how this turns out. I did grease that pan and spray it with nonstick spray. You do not want this to stick. Pour on that spaghetti mixture and spread it out evenly. Now this bakes at 400 for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, remove it from the oven. Now you're going to drop that oven temp down to 350. Then you're going to pour over a 24-ounce jar of spaghetti sauce. I'm using Hunt's, but just use your favorite here. I'm just using the back of my spoon to spread it out as evenly as I can. And now it's time to get creative and top it with anything you like. My family loves ham on their pizza, so I'm topping it with about a cup of diced ham. I also added on about a pound of cooked ground beef. But you could also use sausage if you prefer, or you can use them both. And I'm adding my daughter's favorite pizza topping, pepperoni. And I did cut that pepperoni into smaller pieces. You can get creative with this and add on peppers and onions, mushrooms, olives, or even pineapple. I topped it with 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese, but feel free to use any cheese you like here. And I did add some whole pepperonis on top just to make it look pretty. Now this goes back into the oven to bake at 350 for about 25 minutes. This is such a fun recipe. The kids love it and the whole family loves it. And I like to serve this with some cheesy garlic bread and a side salad. I really hope you give this one a try. Pizza and spaghetti made in one pan? I think you're gonna love it. And who doesn't love a good casserole, especially chicken tetrazzini? I started out by boiling up 8 ounces of angel hair pasta. I love these half-length size noodles. And for some reason, some people are really against breaking noodles in half. These are already in half, so I didn't do it. I cooked those according to the directions on the back of the box. Now over to the counter in a large bowl. I added 4 ounces of room temperature cream cheese, and of course I forgot to set mine out, so I ended up popping it in the microwave for just a few seconds. I also added 1 can of cream of chicken soup, half a cup of cottage cheese, and a big old spoonful of sour cream. I'd say about 1/4 of a cup. And for the seasonings, I didn't add salt because I just didn't think it needed it, but I did add in some pepper and half a teaspoon of garlic powder. You're going to add in 2.5 cups of cooked chicken. I shredded mine, but you could also dice it. I gave that a quick stir, then add in half a cup of chicken broth. I was out of the better than bouillon. That's what I usually use. So I just use those chicken broth cubes instead. I keep those in the pantry for emergency situations like this. I added in that cooked and drained pasta, then I mixed it all together until it was well combined. I'm making this in a 9x9 inch baking dish, but you could very easily double it and make it in a 9x13. I poured that mixture into that casserole dish. Then I sprinkled it with a handful of Parmesan cheese and about 1.5 cups of shredded mozzarella. Like I always say, you really can't have a casserole without cheese, and we love cheese. I sprinkled on a little parsley just for color. Then I baked it at 350, covered tightly with foil for about 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, I do like to uncover this and let it continue to cook uncovered for about 15 more minutes. Just because I do like for that top to be a little golden brown. And if you need to, you can turn it on broil for the last minute or so to get the top the way you like it. And let me tell you, this is one of my family's absolute favorite recipes. If you're in the mood for some cozy comfort food, this is the recipe for you. If you haven't ever had this, you really should give it a try. And if you do, let me know what you think about it. I just served this with some steamed broccoli, but if you wanted, you could actually add veggies to the casserole before you bake it. You could do peas or even mushrooms. Just do what your family loves and make it your own. Now we're making this garlic butter shrimp scampi. I started out by cooking up 8 ounces of angel hair pasta according to the directions on the back of the box. And I always add salt to my water when I'm boiling pasta. I don't add oil though, because that'll keep your sauce from sticking to those noodles. Now over to a large skillet, I added in 4 tablespoons of butter and a little bit less than 1/4 of a cup of oil. I also added this packet of McCormick garlic butter shrimp scampi. This was my first time trying this. We loved it. It really had a lot of flavor in there. Now the recipe called for a pound of frozen cooked shrimp. They do need to be thawed though. All I had was a 12-ounce bag, so that's what I used. But next time I'm going to add a little more shrimp. I tossed that shrimp around in that butter sauce and let it cook for a few minutes. Then I added in that cooked and drained pasta. Now give that a really good stir. Make sure those noodles are covered in that butter sauce. Then this is ready to serve. This recipe was so easy and absolutely delicious. I make this pretty often. It's creamy beef and shells. I'm starting out by boiling up 3 cups, that's 8 ounces, of medium shell pasta according to the directions on the back of the box. Now over to a large skillet, I added 1 pound of lean ground beef along with half a diced onion. Just break that up and let it cook until that ground beef is cooked through. And I'm using a paper towel to get rid of that grease. Now you're going to add in a teaspoon of minced garlic and about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Also a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of pepper. I stirred that around a little bit. Now you're going to add in 3 tablespoons of butter along with 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Whisk that around and let it cook for about a minute or so until you don't see any dry flour left. Then I added in a can of diced tomatoes with green chilies. I used this instead of a red bell pepper that the recipe called for. And that was 2 cups of beef broth that I added in there. I think I was supposed to add that in slowly, but I just kind of dumped it all in. Now bring that to a simmer and let it simmer until that mixture starts to thicken. Then I added half a cup of sour cream and a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Then give this a really good stir until everything is well combined. When all that cheese is pretty well melted, you can go ahead and add in that cooked and drained pasta from earlier. Now stir that until all the pasta is coated in that creamy sauce. And by the way, that sauce is amazing. I topped it with a little more sour cream and shredded cheddar cheese. This recipe is delicious. Up next is this Italian chicken tortellini. In a large skillet, I added a tablespoon of oil along with half a diced red bell pepper. You're going to stir that around and let it cook for just a few minutes before we add in the chicken. Now I'm adding in about a pound of boneless, skinless chicken that I cut into bite-sized pieces. Stir that around and let it cook until that chicken is no longer pink and pretty well completely cooked through. Mine took about 8 minutes. Then I added in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 teaspoon of basil, a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of thyme. I ended up having just enough of that. Mix that together and let it cook until that garlic becomes fragrant. Now I'm adding a can of diced tomatoes, and those are undrained. Just a pinch of crushed red pepper from this little packet here. I always save those when we get pizza. I added in half a cup of heavy cream, but you could use any milk of choice here. Stir that. Now I'm going to make a cornstarch slurry to thicken up that sauce. I have half a cup of chicken broth, and to that, I'm adding a heaping tablespoon of cornstarch. I stirred that until I didn't see any lumps, then add it into your sauce, followed by 3 cups of frozen cheese tortellini. Now stir that around and make sure the tortellini is completely submerged in that liquid. You're going to bring this to a boil, then reduce the heat to medium-low. Now cover it and let it cook for about 3 or 4 minutes, or until that tortellini is cooked through and tender. The sauce still looks pretty liquidy at this point, but it will thicken up. Now that tortellini is done, I added a handful of Parmesan cheese, along with 1 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. Give that a really good stir and let that cheese melt. Then this is ready to serve. This is a family favorite, and if you try it, you'll understand why. It is so good. Up next is $1 Million Taco Spaghetti. I'm starting out by cooking up 16 ounces of spaghetti, according to the directions on the back of the box. While those noodles are boiling, I'm going to get started on the meat sauce. And for that, I browned up 1 pound of ground beef. I cooked that until it was cooked through. I used a paper towel to get rid of that grease. Next, I'm adding in 1 packet of taco seasoning, a can of diced tomatoes with green chilies, and a 28-ounce jar of spaghetti sauce. I'm just using marinara because that's what I had on hand. Now stir that until everything is well combined. I removed it from the heat and then set it aside. Now we're going to make a cheese mixture. In a large bowl, I added 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, 1 cup of cottage cheese, and 1/4 cup of sour cream. And for the seasonings, I added 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder and 2 tablespoons of parsley. I mixed that until everything was well combined. You could do this by hand, but I just used my mixer to make it easier. I'm using a 9x13 inch baking dish. I did spray that with nonstick spray. Now I'm adding in half of those cooked and drained spaghetti noodles. Spread that out into an even layer. Now spoon all of that cheese mixture evenly over the top of those noodles. And I just used my spatula to spread it all out. Now on top of that, you're going to add the remaining half of those noodles. When you get those all spread out, you're going to add in that meat sauce. Just try to make sure all those noodles get covered. And to top it off, I'm sprinkling over 2 cups of shredded cheese. I'm using cheddar and mozzarella. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes. This would be a really fun way to change up taco night, and it's also delicious and easy to make. This could also be made and assembled ahead of time to make it an even quicker and easier weeknight meal. This recipe is so good, and my family really enjoys it. Now we're going to get started on this one-pot chicken Alfredo. In a large, high-walled skillet set to medium-high heat, I added in a tablespoon of oil, along with a pound of boneless, skinless chicken that I cut into bite-sized pieces. Just stir that around and get it coated in that oil. I seasoned it with a little Kinder's garlic and herb seasoning. That stuff is good on anything. You can also add in a little salt and pepper to taste. Let that chicken cook for a few minutes on both sides until it's completely cooked through. Then I added a tablespoon of minced garlic. Let that cook for another minute or so until that garlic becomes fragrant. Next, you're going to add in a cup of chicken broth, followed by 1 cup of heavy cream. Also, 8 ounces of your favorite pasta. I'm using the thin egg noodles. 1 stick of butter. I know that's a lot, but trust me, this is so good. And finally, 4 ounces of softened cream cheese. Now mix that up and stir it around, and make sure that pasta is completely submerged in that liquid. And if they're not, you can always add in a little extra chicken broth. I decided to add in about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Stir that. Now you're going to bring this mixture to a boil. Then reduce the heat and let it simmer. I stirred mine occasionally so those noodles didn't stick to the bottom. I'll let that simmer uncovered for 15 minutes, or until those noodles are tender. And when those noodles are done, you're going to turn the heat off, then add in 1 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. Mix that together, and when the cheese is all melted, this dinner is ready to serve. This is definitely a delicious comfort food meal. I like to serve it with steamed broccoli, breadsticks, and if I feel like it, I'll make a side salad. Either way, my family is so happy when they see this on the dinner table. And lucky for me, it's so easy to make. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, you may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one. In today's video, I'm sharing 8 delicious pasta dishes. Hey. Oh no.